chain pulling, not paying attention to healer's mana, chain pulling. Being mean to the healer, cause I know he can take it, and he's secretly a masochist.
Oh, I don't know if it's a secret, my dear friend.
Hello there, welcome to episode 2 of the Tanks Chronicles. We're doing a 16 Halls of Atonement today. We're tanking it up. Right now we are waiting, holding still, because these two ads that are running up don't start moving until you do, so you can position them much better to do a triple pull here. Get everybody grouped together, lust, and, well, kick ass. Right now we are using up if you look at the top of the screen up here, you can see my ignore pain and shield blocks. The goal is to keep up shield blocks, although if I'm not taking a lot of damage, I'm going to be spending a lot of my rage on revenge, because best served cold, revenge does a shit ton of damage, which is why I'm currently doing 14k DPS and now damaging our shaman as warrior on this particular part of this particular pull. Overall, he'll do a lot more damage than I will. We're not doing a great job at managing stacks there, which is why Krista died. A combination of deadly thrust and stacks there. And then at low keys, that's a mechanic that like chunks people. In higher keys, deadly thrust just kills you unless you are like overgeared for it. And pull 2, grabbing these 3 while we wait for the patrol to move away. Once the patrol is gone, we're going to turn it into a double pull with the little gribblies over there on the right. Dodge the deadly thrusts, very important. And then come over here, charge for the extra rage, the extra shield block from our legendary. Just very nice set of abilities. And we just keep up the AoE CCs, like Ancient Aftershock goes down, keeps everything CC'd and together and damaged. Really, really nice. And as you say, we just keep everything together, AoE it all down. We do better when we're in an AoE situation as tank damage. We charge in, we just keep the chain pull going. We literally have not stopped pulling since the start of this dungeon. And we're what, like 4 minutes into it, and we just chain pull, chain pull, chain pull. There's 2 things to keep in mind when doing this. One is the healer's mana and cooldowns. If it's something like a Resto Shaman, or excuse me, Resto Druid, you want to make sure that he has something like Convoke available, or something like Innervate, so that he can keep going even if he's low mana. And then as a healer, you want to be taking every opportunity to sit and drink a little bit of water between pulls like this. Unless the tank is being a big meanie pants and, you know, chain pulling. Here, we are going to just wait for the healer to get mana up before we pull the shard, waiting for mana and, more importantly, cooldowns. We go in, we pull both of these guys, you kick the curses because they're the more annoying thing. And then once everybody is ready for it and people have cooldowns up, then you pull in. You don't want to. There's no point in double pulling and having like a big pull if there aren't people with damage cooldowns available to take advantage of that. Otherwise, you're just wasting the healer's mana and everyone's time. Here you see this little swirly line that is Siphon Life. If it stays up on someone, it does a shit ton of damage and heals up the Depraved Collector a little bit. It's a good reason to focus down the Depraved Collector basically every time. And it's a scary ability. You want to... I should probably have Storm Bolted it right there when I was casting it. Odd dies right there because he has Siphon Life on himself, which is very sad. Here we wait again for cooldowns. We're waiting for the right opportunity, and we're going to turn this into a chain pull because, well, why not, right? So as soon as this thrash ends, and probably I could have done it a little sooner, but when this thrash ends, we turn and avoid... Oh, yeah, we turn and we go right into this little Gribbly pole because we don't want to be wasting any time. And this doesn't do a lot of damage, especially if I can keep shield block up and use the extra rage for ignore pains. We have all this AoE stuff we can drop on these guys right now because the next pole is going to be a single target lieutenant fight. So we just sit here, AoE things down, use defensives, wait for the healer's mana, except not. So we have 4 stacks of bursting. The healer just dropped tranquility. We're going to use that tranquility for this pull. He has low mana, that's fine. This guy doesn't do a lot of single target or of party damage as long as we're managing the kicks appropriately. You dodge the ranged DPS and healer need to dodge the thing, and then you communicate who is interrupting the incinerator kicks. We're giving the priority for kicks to Kiertsen because he has a Naya's poison, so he gets extra damage from being the one to kick people, which is one of the reasons his damage is absolutely batshit insane right here. And he gets extra damage every time he gets a kick right then. See, Kier just got the kick. He gets like 10% of his damage from that shit. It's crazy. Next, we get the power. We want Champion's Brand as a warrior tank, especially with a druid healer, because he can very easily overheal because of the way HoTs work. You're going to be over 70% of your health unless you're in a like dire situation. You're getting crit from this, hopefully. If you're getting crit as a warrior, 1, it's nice to have that little bit of extra damage, but 2, warriors convert crit to parry chance. That is a defensive stat. Champion's Brand on a warrior tank is defensive, even if it doesn't look like it. Alright, on this pull, we go in, we pull the 2 casters into the collector pull. I've seen other people, and for example, when Tig is tanking, she pulls the other 2 into this, but that's alright. What I did here that was a bit of a mistake is I didn't use shield wall a little bit earlier, which is why I got slapped like crazy by the big boy. Laguna doing an excellent job immediately cleansing the Siphon Life off of Krista there, so... and then we just focus the collector down so we don't have to deal with Siphon Life, because Siphon Life is a bitch. And then we deal with these guys here. I'm about to make a little bit of a mistake. I'm going to get hit by double Wicked Bolts while I have Spell Reflect available, and then I'm going to get hit by a melee attack and die while I have Shield Block available. I don't take the res because it's right here. I can just quickly like intervene, charge, jump, you know, get right back into the action. It was pretty much inexcusable to die right there. I should have had shield block up for that melee attack which is the actual killing blow. Yeah, I'm gonna look right there. The actual killing blow was the melee from the shard. I should have used Spell Reflect on the 2 Wicked Bolts, which were available and casting at the same time, so it would have reflected both of them. There was a lot of ways to not die there. Here, I jump back over here, get solid aggro on the 4, bring them into these 2 boys. AoE them down. Ancient Aftershock plus Ravage is an extremely powerful combo. For 1, it's AoE CC and AoE damage. For 2, it generates Rage, which I'm spending a lot on Revenge, but I also had some Ignore Pain going there, a little bit of Shield Block going. This pull doesn't do a lot of damage, so I'm spending more of my Rage on offense. That's an important trick to know whenever you're trying to push higher keys, is when you can get away with spending your Rage on offense and when you have to spend it on defense. Alright, with this pull, you can stop it with a Hunter Freeze Trap, but you don't have to. I pull it in, I charge up, and I step slightly out of range to be able to charge. Krista goes in and assumes we're going to charge in together like we usually do, but unfortunately I was slightly out of range to charge into the Houndmaster, and she dies. 100% my fault she dies there. She would insist that it was her fault, but it was really my fault for her death. We stun the Loyal Beast cast, which goes off when the Huntsman is at 50% health. And then we just AoE these guys down. We're keeping this pull small and not double pulling, because the next pull is the Lieutenant. We want to go into that kind of fresh without wasting a bunch of time. If you pull huge here, if you're kiting around, it can be easy to accidentally body pull the big guy. So it's just nicer to do it this way. It's Mr. Freeze this time. Very, very mechanically simple Lieutenant. He slows you by 50%, which is really annoying and why you pretty much always want to kill him, because I don't think there's any final boss you want to be slowed at. You get out of the way of that thing, which is the same as the Cone of Shame that the guys use in the other side, and then you don't stand in the swirlies, and that's pretty much the entire fight. Right, once the boss goes down, we grab our anima power. Here, it's a little different because there are 3 kind of good powers that you can have. Extra 70% movement speed for 6 seconds in combat is kind of nice, but you're kind of safe in the first little bit of combat as a Prot warrior because you have shield block in the beginning. You don't need to kite right away usually. Dealing extra damage against targets you interrupt is nice, except we have a Night Fae that uses Naya's tools, and Pendant of the Martyr is really, really, really good on this dungeon in particular. In general, it's good, but on this dungeon in particular, because every single boss has something that can be avoided with it. Remember, we haven't done a single boss yet at this point. We have the slam from the Shard, from Halkias here, and his throws, and the twirly twirlies, all of which are AoE damage. You can save someone from accidentally dying to the twirly twirlies by taking this power. The second boss has the blood pool. He's got the slam thing that he does. The third boss has the anima thing. She's got the ghost she summons. The fourth boss has his chain blood to the statue. The point is, you get a lot of value out of Pendant of the Martyr, and I don't think there's any reasonable way to suggest that taking the other 2 would be better. Right here, we're waiting just a second for healer mana, then we go in. We do this pull immediately after, because this pull is a bitch and a half. We can pull the Gargoyle in on this and blow cooldowns, because no one uses cooldowns on Mr. Freeze. The Lieutenant fight, it's an annoying slogfest. It takes a while, you have to chew through its health, but there's not really a reason to use damaging cooldowns. Whereas this pool, especially on Fortified Weak, is a nightmare. So pulling the Gargoyle in and using a bunch of heavy damaging cooldowns, 10 out of 10 the right call. What is not the right call is staggering and chaining together the kills and getting up 4 stacks of the bursting. But that's okay. That's alright. We again wait for mana, but we've got the Stoneborn, so we might as well use them. We go with a nice juicy little double 2.5 pull here, if you count the little boy as another pull. We accidentally pull the other loyal boy while we still have one, so I just make sure to get solid aggro on it. Other than that, we're keeping everything grouped together. We're keeping up our shield block, we're keeping up our ignore pain, and using our revenge procs as they come. We're not spending too much of our rage on revenge procs, because this is a kind of a dangerous pull for me. Shield block is up 100%. Use the Ancient Aftershock as soon as it comes off cooldown here. We want to keep everything together and CC'd as much as possible. But then when our defensives run out and we don't have a lot left, and we've got 5 stacks of bleed, it's time to run away like a little bitch, because that's better than having a dead tank. Even though I ran away here, I've got aggro on these guys. They're not killing my team. My team has a chance to, kill these guys. Here, slight mistake with that Night Fae blink. I could have gone a little bit more to the right and not taken a hit. I think I went down to like 4% health there or something. Calculated. But no, it was a slight mistake on my part, and Angelou nailed it because he's an excellent healer. Alright, so for this pull, we go in, we pull them all together again. We use Spell Reflect to get these 2 bolts back, interrupt that one, drag them into the rest of the group. That way we get everything together, we make good use of our cooldowns, we get some extra damage in with Spell Reflect, which is the most broken ability in the game. Here we keep the group together. Chain Harvest OP saves us from losing a couple members here. Holding things inside of the Wild Spirits, inside of my Ancient Aftershock, standing myself inside of the little green druid circle, all of which is just, it's really nice to keep aware of where you are, make sure that I'm very deliberately facing the enemies as a whole so that I'm getting parries and shield blocks this whole time. Staying out of the swirlies, I'm communicating to my team that in voice chat that I'm going to be leaving for just a second, but please, for the love of God, don't follow me because I'm coming right back to the boss. So then having said that, we go here, charge into the little guys and cast the scale. Now, nice thing about the scale is that it scales with the number of targets that have been hit by it. So we don't have to... I get a bigger defensive cooldown and do more damage with it if I use it on that group of 4, and it protects me from a little bit of the thrash, although I used it later into the thrash. And I also keep the enemies together, AoE them down. Throw the sword, pull them back, then bleh. First boss time. You want to position so that no one's behind you. Whenever he targets you with Crumbling Slam, you cannot sidestep it. You can move away from the boss, but it's a little hard to do. But you can never ever sidestep it. He will follow you with it. You will definitely kill your friends if you try to sidestep it, if there's other melee DPS. So I find that it's best to just eat it. Here, he's going to throw back. The ranged DPS doing an excellent job of positioning along the back so that he throws there. I move to here so that we keep all of the blood shit clumped together. Keep a close eye on the boss's energy bar. Right now it's at 82. Heaves debris. I start pulling him away because the next time he slams is going to be the last one before he twirly-twirlies. Have him slam on me, step back so that I park his ass on it, and now melee DPS can beat him up the entire twirly-twirly time. There's so much room for activities. And then it just goes on and on. The idea here, like the Wild Spirits was expertly placed. You keep everything going. You keep a nice clean area to fight in, and then as you're tanking him, you keep a close eye on his energy. His energy built up during that fight, while he was twirly-twirling. So he's already at 71 with it. The second time he swirlies is much sooner than the first time. So right now he's at 81%. This is going to be his last one, right? So we step back, give room for activities again. Look at how much free space we have to play around in if we need it. It's less of an issue on Fortified Weeks, but it's an important skill to have for this boss, especially for Tyrannical Weeks. Here we have 79.85%, which is plenty. It's basically exactly enough. We pop our invisibility pots. If we had a rogue, we'd be using Shroud. Shout out to Blaze. But we don't, so we invis pot, which is why it's important to make sure that you communicate to your group not to pop like strength pots and stuff during the last pull. Wait for everybody to get up and ready to go. Bam! Pull into Echelon. We have 13.5 minutes left, which is a little tight for Fortified Week. Fortified takes a little bit longer, but the bosses are easier. As we're fighting this, you want to make sure you get aggro on these Stone Fiends before they do their first cast, Spell Reflect, and you get to do all of those simultaneous casts bounced back, and you get really nice damage. It's a little bit of fluff damage, but also not, because it's important to kill these guys. Everybody goes kind of low here, so I use Rally. We have 2 classes capable of decursing with us. We have the Shaman and the Druid, so we get to keep up really high damage for them even during the phase where we're paralyzed. The healer gets to throw down the decurse on himself if there's an emergency and he needs to keep everyone up. Otherwise, he gets to decurse the person who has the debuff, which is just like f***ing cake. Like, you'll always position it well if you are... Like, even if it's a hunter that's standing at 40 yards, if you have someone who can decurse, and they're the target of the circle, they'll still get it into melee range to kill the little boys with the slam. Here, kind of do a little bit of a piss-poor job getting the little boys grouped together, but it's a little rough. We get them all down, they're all together, and I think, except for the one that's still alive, they all died at this slam, so it's fine. get the boy down. I intervene to Krista there because I take the conduit that reduces damage taken by the target that you intervene to. So even though I can't absorb the bleed for her as much as I would like to, we do get some value out of that because she takes like 12% less damage from the bleed, the actual bleed effect, which can build up, especially since she's a little under-geared, if I recall correctly. Oop. Yeah, getting slammed, never fun. And then I go down. Let's talk about this for a second. When I died there, what did I have available? I had shield block times 2. I had ignore pain. I had shield wall. I had last stand. There is 0 excuse for dying in that situation. If you ever die with shield wall up as a warrior tank, you have made an inexcusable error, and you should really reflect on your priorities. In this case, my priority was using revenge, which I shouldn't have been. Well, I think I used ignore pain as well, but ignore pain, shield wall. Which one should you be pressing if you're about to take a ton of damage? It's kind of a no-brainer. And then after I die, of course, you lose aggro on everything. So I taunt the boss. I don't have mass taunt available, so I'm struggling to get aggro on the little guys. I finally get it, but people have taken a lot of damage that I could have avoided them, like having them take. And none of it would have been an issue if I managed my defensive properly. So I would encourage everyone, by the way, to record yourself, whether it's tanking, healing, DPSing. Go back and critically look at what could I have done differently to not die in a situation where I died, or what could I have done to help the tank not die, or how could I have made the healer's life a little bit easier. Here we have a couple of seconds. I throw down, while he's doing the res, I throw down the feast. The healer's going to need mana, so let's, get everybody together and get a feast going. Get the buff up. This guy, pull him out, because you do not want to fight him in the room full of annoying guys to fight. This is the hold hands, then run away fight. While you're fighting him, you have 50% reduced healing, which sucks ass. And then anyone who's not holding hands with a friend whenever he casts the Wave of Terror gets feared. Not a good time. After that, he chooses someone, puts a little circle around them, and anyone inside that circle gets a really nasty bleed, made nastier by the fact that you're receiving 50% healing. So everybody holds hands, then everybody kind of spreads out, because it's just easier to spread out a little bit if you figure out who is holding, who's taking the hit first. Again, using intervene to deal with bleed damage. Other than that, this is a pretty simple fight. It's more hard on the healer than literally anyone else. The majesty of Stygian King's barbs cannot be overstated. We're going to take a very close look at this for a moment, because it's glorious. I don't even think about it. Earlier, I talked about how great Champion's Brand is, and it is, and double stacking Champion's Brand and having 420, blaze it, extra crit sounds pretty nice, right? Siegebreaker's Stand is never going to be useful, because how often are you ever actually standing still? Never. You're never just standing still. But Stygian King's Barbs. When enemies strike you in melee combat, Shadow Barbs lash out from you and deal 2% of your current health and shadow damage to them. Let's look really quick to the top left at my health. 98,000 health? What's 2% of that, she wondered sexily. 1,800 damage. Every time I get struck in melee, whenever I'm at full health. Now, it goes down the more damaged you are. But just like Champion's Brand, if you have something like, say, a healer focusing you, keeping you up, because that's what should be happening most of the time, you're going to be at high health a lot of the time. What are the warrior's two big, oh god, I'm gonna die cooldowns do? Rallying Cry increases maximum health. Last Stand increases maximum health 25%. You are getting swole, and at that time, you are getting all kinds of damage just leeching off your body for free. Stygian Barb's value cannot be overstated. It is fantastic. And then this pull is a nightmare. Again, a slight mistake made by me here. You saw that little barb go out. The first person to run over it picks up the barb. So even though Kier expertly frost trapped that Houndmaster, it came anyway because I put Naya's burrs on it and bad things happened. That's okay though. We keep them all together inside the Wild Spirits, we AoE them down, and we do our best. This fight, extremely, incredibly important to be using defensives properly. And we need to assign people to cast some sort of hard CC on the Houndmasters if they look like they're going to cast Loyal Beasts. Otherwise, we keep our shield block up the entire time, and if you ever have more than 2 to 3 stacks of the bleed, it's time to run like a little bitch again. We have the bleed plus 4 stacks of bursting, so we wound up having to burn both Tranquility and Rallying Cry there. Not great, but not the worst thing in the universe. Pop in here. We do this pull them out. We don't want to fight them in there because there's a really good chance of accidentally pulling the mini-boss or wasting one of the gargoyles, and neither of those are a good choice. We charge here to dodge the Deadly Thrust, come over here, interrupt the Deadly Sins, keep everything tight together, use our AoE abilities. Again, Ancient Aftershock is a godsend of keeping things together, CC'd, and damaged. It's beautiful. We use our Spell reflect things. Spell Reflect is something that the difference between a good warrior tank and a great warrior tank is one who is using Spell Reflect and Shield Block on the things that it is broken against. And then if it's not against something that's broken, at least getting some use out of it. Here we go right into Soggy Boy. Very, very simple mechanically thing. You want to use some sort of heavy defensive physical damage against the first crush in particular. It smacks. Then he pulls everyone in, does the bindings. He also does the stomp. You want to stay in melee range until the last possible second. Run out. As soon as he's done, go back in. And here again, we find ourselves in the same sort of situation where there's 3 choices, but only one of them is really worth taking. Broken Mirror is okay. In this dungeon in particular, it can be argued that there's some use for it because the next boss does magic damage a lot. The mini boss between the 2 bosses does some magic damage to you, and of course the last boss does quite a lot of magic damage. But 20% of your maximum health. For me, unbuffed, no fortify, no last stand, etc. That is, I have 90,000 health. That is an 18,000 health shield. That is crazy. Every 45 seconds, I get 18,000 extra health, basically. For nothing. The last boss is going to be like a 20-second fight. That's 36,000 extra healing that the healer doesn't have to do anything about. That's crazy. It's not even worth comparing it to something like Dripping Fang, where we're getting 5% leech, and sure, if we're missing 50% of our health, it goes up to 20%. But how often in this dungeon am I going to be below 50% of my health? Almost never. And if I was, I'm not getting value out of my Stygian Barbs, I'm not getting value out of my Champion's Brand, and it doesn't synergize at all with the other powers we want to be taking, and the fact that we're the focus of the healer's ministrations, because we're the tank and we get all kinds of nice treatment. So I wouldn't ever recommend taking anything but Stone Ward on a warrior tank. On a DH, maybe Dripping Fang is worth it. On a monk, maybe Broken Mirror is worth it because they struggle with magic damage. There's argument to be made, but Stone Ward is straight pimpin'. This boss fight, pretty simple. Charge in, you beat her up, We are letting Kier get the kicks because he has Naya's poison and gets extra damage off of it. Again, it's just important to pay attention to what your teammates have going for them. The ghosts, you stand between, you put the jar between you and the ghost walks into it, the jar vanishes. A lot of people mistakenly believe that there's only a limited number of jars, but if you use all 4, it literally doesn't matter because another ghost will randomly spawn. Unlike a lot of other mechanics, this one can target the tank, so it's a little bit rough on the healer if it's targeting the tank because everyone wants to be around the boss and the ghost does damage around itself. But what are you gonna do? Other than that, don't stand in the swirlies, kick her abilities, and don't be an idiot. This fight's easy peasy. For this guy, everyone takes a quadrant and beats up some ghosts. When you first start, he casts Dark Communion. Only thing the tank does with the boss here is get aggro on him and maybe do something once in a while to keep aggro on him. Otherwise, you're helping beat up the ghosts. Our Sated wore off around the beginning of the last boss, but we elected to hold on to it for this guy. There's no point damaging him before all the ghosts are dead because he's just going to eat them and get health back. I just come over here to interrupt him once because otherwise he chain casts Wicked Bolts and they start to hurt. Run around, we kill the ghosties. He doesn't do a lot of physical damage with his auto attacks, so I don't even face him to parry or block. I just take it to the face. Everybody's running around a little bit, where ghosts are spread everywhere. We're trying to use defensives and keep the ghosts from actually hitting people. Once the ghosts are down, we interrupt this guy again, and then drag him and the ads upstairs. If you don't want to waste time kicking him, you can come over here and line of sight. He'll just stand in the doorway. We hard AoE these guys down. He's casting Dark Communion, but there's no one left for him to commune with, so he doesn't get any health back. The ads get AoE down. The boss is the primary target. I have a little bit of a hard time getting aggro back on the boss because Odd popped Incarnation, or whatever the shaman equivalent of that is, I forget here. When he's at 40% health, or actually 35% health, we lust because Krista, being a warrior, gets execute phase there. We wanted to use it now so that we could get him down quickly, make good use of the execute phase, and then still have 20 seconds of lust available for the actual boss fight. Here we are, the statues will face whatever direction they're going to be flung at. So if you watch the statues, they will turn and then they'll move. The little Kamehameha wave there is wider than it looks, which is why Luguna gets hit there. It's fine. You see, he turned, Kier backsteps. Kier doesn't get hit by the statue because Kier's good at video games. Whenever he casts Door of Shadows, you want to just step back, be away from him. I throw Ravager down to get some damage down. Slight mistake because the statues are hot the entire time they're up. Here, if you stand between the two statues and inside of him, you can take 2 of them. Unfortunately, Kier gets knocked up by a tornado and misses quite a few pulses there, but it's not the end of the world. Laguna had cooldowns for it, and it's not Fortified Week, or it is Fortified Week, rather. It's not tyrannical. The Torment, same deal as with Soggy. You want to kind of try to stay in it as long as possible and still get a hit, but its hitbox is wider than it is big, so I got hit by it even though it appeared my hitbox was out of it. It's the visual effect doesn't go as far as the actual hitbox of the ability is. And when you're moving, your hitbox is slightly behind you. So it's my fault I got hit there, even though I would probably bitch about it if live. Here, again, we're taking 2 beams ourselves. We have good soaks from the other 2. It makes... If the tank is getting 2, it's easier for the healer. Straight up. Granted, he used Tranquility there, but that's fine. We have 30 seconds left, 224k damage, or health left on the boss. Easy fucking peasy. Easiest boss fight of my life. Not even close. And then if you want to stick around and watch, we can get our Pauldrons of Eternal Sadness, because, well, they're not an upgrade. And then an upgrade for Krista either, which is the sad part. Let's talk builds, because the build is what makes this warrior loadout really, really fun. One thing that's important is we use Naya for most of our tank-related things. Her main ability is that she gives extra mastery, which is whatever, and health for every time we deal damage, and 12 stacks of it every time we use our Ancient Aftershock, which is on cooldown. Speaking of Ancient Aftershock, we're empowering it with Destructive Reverberations. It lowers the cooldown of Ancient Aftershock by 15 seconds and increases its damage by 16% with the version of the conduit that I have, which I have not farmed up yet. The other reason that we use Naya is Burrs. It gives excellent single target damage, 5,300 damage over 6 seconds to a single target, just for doing damage to them. It's free damage. There's no reason not to, and it pairs up nicely with a endurance conduit. In this case, we're lowering the cooldown of shield wall by almost 30 seconds, which is obnoxious. The other reason that we like Naya so much, two of them. One is Survivor's Rally, which is basically well-honed instincts for druids, but, you know, anyone can have it. Whenever I get below 50% health, 20% health regen over 10 seconds, and additional 10% healing from other sources. Crazy good. Crazy good. And then we pair that with the capstone abilities Bonded Hearts. Every time we get a stack of our passive, including when we get the free 12 from Ancient Aftershock, we're healing up to 5 nearby allies for 2% of their health. It's just really good. It's just really good. The talent tree, also very nice. We take Devastator because it gives us lots and lots and lots of free shield slams. Because, well, shield slam is bae. Also, most of our damage is auto-attacking. Or not most, but a lot of our damage is auto-attacking. And Devastate giving us extra auto-attack damage is really nice, particularly when we have a, say, Enhancement Shaman in the party dropping a Wind Totem. Stormbolt, I don't know. I know people like Double Time. Double Time is nice. Having an extra charge is nice. Stormbolt, just a free 4-second single target stun. Forget about it. Nothing else is worth taking. That's not true. But, like, Shockwave, having 15 seconds off the cooldown of Shockwave, nice and all. But having just a whole ass another ability that's a 4-second single target stun, backup stun, you can chain it with the Shockwave. Like, it's just, there's no contest. Best Serve Cold replaced Booming Voice for me because of the legendary, which we'll talk about in a moment. But in general, Revenge does 20% more damage, and when you have a Revenge proc, it's 50% more damage. You have it forever, always. This is not something that's every 30 seconds like Booming, or 45 seconds like Booming Voice. Booming Voice is nice, a little on-demand extra rage, and the targets take 20% more damage, but baseline deal 20% more damage with your most damaging ability, and sometimes it's 50% more. I'll take it. I'll take it for free, and when we talk about the legendary a second, you'll understand more why it's better. This row, anything's fine. Bounding Stride it's fine. I like it for kiting. Crackling Thunder is fine. You can make a case for it. Menace is good in Sanguine Weeks especially, but I don't care for it that much. Indomitable, 10% more max health, and every 10 rage you spend gives you 1% healing. 1% of your max health healing. I have nothing else to say about it except that it's just phenomenal. Ravager, I use Ravager on cooldown. You throw it on the ground, it generates rage, it does damage. We obviously can't be using Bladestorm, so Ravager is a Bladestorm you throw on the ground. Yeah. Anger Management is what makes the build work. Every 10 rage, you notice how that pairs up pretty nicely with Indomitable, reduces the remaining cooldown on Avatar and Shield Wall by 1 second. There are fights where I will use like 3 avatars in a single pull. Like, It lets you throw out the damage. Now, the reason Best Served Cold is so good is quite simply our legendary. Mine's only 235 because I cannot be arsed to go farm Soul Cinders on more than 2 characters. But Charge and Intervene grant you shield block for 4 seconds. That alone would make this worth taking. Almost. Revenge, by which it means a revenge proc, and generates 20 additional rage. How much are we getting for charge normally? Charge is giving us 20 rage, so 1 charge with this legendary is giving us 40 rage, half of a shield block, or, well, actually, 2/3 of a shield block. So if we say that's 2/3, that's 20 rage worth of shield block right there. That's a total of 60 rage from 1 charge. Oh, but wait, we also get a free revenge proc, which is not costing mana. There's another 20 rage of value. And because of our Best Served Cold talent, 50% more damage on that. And you should be intervening and charging like constantly. Like, you're getting so much value out of this. In a long fight, you'll see me often intervening to somebody who's standing right next to me in melee range. And that's just because I want the revenge proc and the 20 extra mana I get from a instant intervene, and also shield block. Like, it is such an overstacked legendary, and I am shocked that they haven't nerfed it. Yeah, that's basically the core of the build. And then for trinkets, I'm using Viscera of Coldest Hatred. It's what I got. It's not necessarily the best secondary tanking trinket, but it's not bad. A little bit of extra damage, a little bit of extra healing. I'm never going to cry about either of those things. And then scale, non-negotiable. Mine's 246 because I haven't got a 252 out of my vault yet. It's phenomenal, and I feel bad for every tank that doesn't have one. Van. And then beyond that, I prioritize haste, I prioritize crit. Crit increases parry chance. The 400 crit that I have is increasing parry chance by 11.5%. Yeah, that's basically the build and the reasoning behind it. If you have questions, please feel free to ask them in the comments. I read every comment. I reply to every comment that asks a question or wants information from me. And if you enjoy this video, please catch me live at twitch.tv/Crowlea. I'm there almost every day. This guy, he's going to target someone, usually a ranged DPS, but not always. I have no f***ing brain.